In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Windows 11 running on the all-new MacBook Neo. Now, obviously, this came with Mac OS, but we can get Windows 11 up and running on this. You could also run something like Linux if you want to, and even run games in Windows on the MacBook Neo, which is really impressive given that this is powered by the same CPU that came out of the iPhone 16. So yeah, for the last few days, I've been testing out Windows 11 on the MacBook Neo, and I'm really surprised at how well it runs here. Now, unfortunately, with this system, given that we've got that Apple Silicon, we're not going to be able to wipe the drive and install Windows 11 like that. We'll have to set it up in a virtual environment, and there's several different free applications that'll allow you to do this. I've gone through 3 of the top ones. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I've kind of settled on Parallels Desktop. When it comes to performance, this is hands down the best that I've tested so far. And the best part here is we're actually using the Windows 11 ARM version. So there's no conversion over to x86, which does make it a lot smoother. And with Parallels Desktop, we do have full 3D hardware acceleration. This is pretty great, and you could definitely use this as a Windows laptop if you wanted to. And as you can see, I've got the full screen Windows 11 experience going here. But with this application, you can actually use something known as coherence mode, which allows you to use those Windows apps inside of Mac OS. So we can actually pull up the taskbar from Windows directly from our desktop in Mac. We can run games in a window here. It's a pretty cool setup, and it's something that I personally haven't tried before. So I've just enabled it, and there's my Windows app panel. From there, we can start up a Windows application, and it'll give us a window over here on our Mac desktop. Now, in order to show this off, I'm going to get in here a bit closer because there's a few things that I want to show you before we get into gaming. That's the main reason I wanted to install this, was to test out some gaming on it. But while doing that, I started diving deeper into Windows on Mac, and it's a pretty cool setup that we've got here. Let's go ahead and check this out. As you can see, we've got the MacBook Neo here. It's using that Apple A18 Pro, same CPU that we saw in the iPhone 16. And we've only got 8 gigs of RAM here, and this is what's going to kind of hold us back when it comes to virtualizing other operating systems on this machine. But with Windows and Ubuntu, which I've tested, it's working way better than I thought it would. I was really impressed by this. So I've tried a few different applications to get this up and running. I've tried UTM. I've also tried VMware Fusion and Parallels Desktop. VMware Fusion and UTM are totally free. I'd say Linux is great on UTM. There's not much that needs to change there. VMware Fusion, really awesome free option, and Windows 11 will run here, but I've been getting the best performance out of Parallels Desktop. And this is kind of a paid subscription app. You can get a 14-day trial for it. And when it comes down to it, yeah, they need to keep it up to date. They need to keep things working if they want people to pay a subscription for it. So obviously, there's probably more work going into Parallels right now. I'm on the free trial version, and to get this up and running, it's super simple. You'll install the app, it'll automatically download Windows 11 for you, and it's the ARM version, and it'll install everything. There's not much else you need to do there. So checking this out, there was one thing that I changed in the settings. From CPU and memory, I went to manual with it, and I've taken up to 5 gigs of RAM. Now, they don't recommend going over 4 with this system and only 4 cores. And remember, with the MacBook Neo, we've got a 6-core CPU and only 8 gigs of RAM. So I am kind of stretching it there, given that virtual machine 5 gigs of RAM. But it's been working pretty decently for me. We'll go ahead and start it up. Again, I'm on that free trial, so I'm going to continue my trial till it's done. And obviously, I'm in windowed mode right now. So you can actually snap this over to either side here, use your Mac along with the Windows desktop. But I showed you at the beginning, we've got that coherence mode, which is pretty cool. Now, I haven't been using it this way. Basically, it's going to allow us to use those Windows apps inside of Mac. So if I go to coherence mode, right down here, you can see it's going to be right beside everything else here. It's a pretty cool little option, but I've been going more full screen mode with it. So I'm going to exit coherence mode, if I can remember how to. There we go. Exit coherence. And then we can just go full screen with it. So now we're here with Windows 11 running on the MacBook Neo. And if we go to our task manager, I'll show you from here. We've got our CPU, only 4 cores. And I don't think the speed is accurate here. It says up to 3 gigahertz, but this will clock up higher. The CPU here, the A18 Pro, 5 gigs of RAM, and we've got the Parallels display adapter. So we've got full 3D acceleration here, hardware acceleration throughout Parallels on this Mac. The only thing that I've been having issues with is DirectX 12 games, and I kind of expected that would be the case there. And I gotta say, it's a pretty smooth experience. If you wanted to use Copilot for some reason, you definitely could from here. I've got Chrome installed instead of using Edge here. And, just browsing the web through here, obviously you're going to have a pretty decent time with it. And I'll tell you, if I was just to grab this and not know anything about the laptop out of the box, I would think this was just running Windows. I mean, it does kind of feel like it's natively running on this. And I think it really comes down to a lot of the optimizations from Parallels Desktop, along with the ARM version of Windows 11 on this thing. So I guess the big question here is, why would you want to run Windows on a MacBook in the first place? For me, it's mostly about gaming, since not all Windows titles run natively on Mac OS. And I've made a couple videos showing some really awesome performance off with the MacBook Neo running some games, even games that aren't supported by Mac OS using other means. But there's also some professional apps that don't exist on Mac, like full AutoCAD or SolidWorks. And to tell you the truth, I haven't tested it on the Neo, but if you're into that, I don't think the Neo would be right for you in the first place. But they're essential in engineering and they rely only on Windows. And of course, when it comes to business tools like ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, most of the well-known ones are by SAP or SAP, and they only run in Windows. So if you've got a MacBook and you don't have access to that, you're running a business, then it could be a big issue. But virtualizing Windows on a Mac and then running that software is totally possible. Right down here, we've even got access to our battery percentage on the MacBook Neo, and I'm charging this right now. I'm up to 89%. One thing that's missing is kind of our performance modes, and I thought that would be the case. So usually we can go to like high performance mode, balance from here, and even kind of just searching through. So it's already kind of a set profile there for this running in Parallels. But the next thing I wanted to check out was some gaming here. And I've got Steam installed. This is one of the main reasons I installed this in the first place, to see if we could game with this virtualized version of Windows 11 on the MacBook Neo. And if you want to check out my other gaming videos on the MacBook Neo, there are a ton of games that run really well on this system inside of Mac OS. And I've even tested other applications that will allow us to kind of emulate those games over here on Mac. But another pretty cool thing here is if I plug in an external hard drive, which I've got some games installed on, it's going to prompt me if I want to use it specifically for the Mac or for Windows. So I'm just going to allow it over here in Windows, and my games should populate here. I've already set this up, so it should show what I have downloaded there. I may have to restart Steam real quick. Okay, once I restarted, it populated. And I'll tell you, this is not going to run something like Cyberpunk 2077 being virtualized in Windows, but you can run the Mac version of Cyberpunk 2077 on the MacBook Neo and lock it down at around 40 FPS, which is pretty crazy given that we've got that iPhone chip. The one thing that's really kind of setting us back here is the amount of RAM that we can utilize, because we've only got 8 in total and 4 dedicated over here to Windows. But I do have some older and lower end games that should work pretty well here. We're going to start off really light here. Let's go with an indie game. And the games that I really wanted to test in this video don't have a native Mac version. That's one of the reasons you would do something like this. So let's go with Marvel Cosmic Invasion. 2D, beat 'em up, really awesome game, super fun, doesn't take a lot to run. I think it will work pretty decently. So obviously this is an easier one to run, and I'm in kind of windowed mode right now to show you that we're still on the MacBook. So this is running in the Windows 11 virtualization container. We can access everything that we have over on the MacBook Neo, but I'm going to go full screen with it. And this one, okay, the resolution's not set correctly. Just let me get into the options here. Up the very top of the screen, I've got the Steam overlay running. That way we can see exactly what's going on with the CPU and RAM and even the GPU here. I've dedicated only 5 gigs of RAM to Windows, and we've got 4 CPU cores to work with. With this one, it's not maxing it out as much as I've seen with some harder to run games, and the easier indie games or just 2D games are going to run very, very well here. Next up, this has always been one of my favorite rally games. It's Dirt 3. We're at 1920 by 1200 high settings, and up in the top left-hand corner, we've got the FPS running. You can see it does dip down into the 70s every once in a while, and at medium settings, this was actually over 100 FPS. Unfortunately, the screen here is only a 60 hertz panel. Would have been nice if they added a 120 hertz with the Neo, but they wanted to keep that cost down. But with the right settings, running a game like this at 120 FPS inside of Windows on the MacBook Neo is definitely possible. But we are kind of reaching the very limit of our RAM here. We're up to like 4.4 gigs in total use in Windows, and we've only got 5 to work with. Here's Portal 2, and there used to be a version for Mac, but unfortunately they did away with 32-bit games or 32-bit applications, so you can't use that anymore. But luckily, it does run great here. We're at 1200p, so 1920 by 1200. I went to medium settings with it, but we could go to high because in some cases we're over 200 FPS on average. Next up, we've got OG Skyrim, medium settings, 1200p, and there's a few hiccups here and there, nothing major. Few skips dropping us into the mid 50s, but for the most part, I've been seeing some pretty solid performance out of this game. I also tested out GTA 5, and we're not getting great performance here and parallels desktop on the MacBook Neo. I also tried to up the RAM a little bit and use all 6 cores. It did give me a bit better performance, but not by much. And I know for a fact that on a higher end M chip like the M3, you can actually play this over 60 FPS inside of Parallels desktop. But we're working with a very low end CPU, and to run this in the container is just not going to work great. But luckily, there are ways to play this on the MacBook Neo, and it does offer some pretty stellar performance. This is inside of Mac OS using an application known as Crossover. Basically, this uses a wine container and some Proton layers to allow us to play Windows games on Mac. I did a full video showing this running on the MacBook Neo. If you're interested in checking that out, link will be in the description. And over there, we were seeing much better performance out of gaming than we are in Parallels desktop. But either way, I still think it's pretty impressive. So yeah, you can definitely run Windows 11 on the MacBook Neo. Would I go out and buy this specifically to run Windows on? I probably wouldn't. I would just stick with Mac OS, but just note that, yeah, if you needed a certain application and it's not a super high-end application that's going to require a ton of RAM and a powerful GPU, you could probably run it in Windows on the Neo. I am planning a Linux video, kind of just like we saw here with Windows 11 on the MacBook Neo. So if you want to see a video like that, make sure you hit that like button and think about subscribing so you know when I post the next one. And if you've got any questions about Windows 11 running on the MacBook Neo, just let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.